because the devil is always in the details. And I will show you certain clauses which we use, which you will see, which will seem normal to you, but may not seem normal to you. And then I'll talk to you about the types of investment, because from the array of people here, I'm not sure whether you have seen one type of agreement, a single page agreement, a 40-page agreement, and that's how we're going to get to. And then I'm going to come to you and tell you what we're going to do to mitigate your risk, mitigate your losses, and when to say no, and when to seek help. And then we will have a short summary of a few things that I want to share with you, including where to find some information when you are stuck as to whether this particular party who is asking you to invest is credible. Okay, so let me start with, why do individuals want to enter? And these are the few thought processes. It's probably at the top of your mind, and I will start off. Number one, greed. Why greed? Because you want to earn an interest. You want to be able to earn and make sure your money works hard for you. I agree. But sometimes the investment seems to be a little unreal. When someone tells you, I can give you 20% a month, something is not correct over here. When someone tells you that in 3 months, I can turn around your money and almost return all of your money back, something's not wrong here. So because of greed, we tend to enter. Nothing wrong with it, because we all want to be able to earn our funds. Fair enough. There's a sense of winning and earning a lot of money. You know, like how Elizabeth, as I told you about, started off. She basically had this product, really believed in it like a startup. Eventually, she wanted to earn lots of money. It does happen. I've seen deals myself in which we have seen tech companies from a couple of $1 million sell for $100 million and more. And the founders have walked away with large sums of money. Of course, it's great. Then I have the ability to play the game. So a lot of you investors tend to be a little older because they've earned their income, and they realize that, what am I going to do in my investment? I don't have any excitement putting my money elsewhere. So what do? They say that let's play this as a game. I want to be able to invest. And so in your mind as an investor, you're saying, I will limit my loss. I will only put this amount of money. I'm prepared to lose it. It's a mentality that happens in an Asian culture, which is fine, because effectively you think that that is true. Then if that is your thought process, then you need to ask yourself a real important question. The real important question is, am I putting my money correctly? And this is why today all of you have joined me. Please feel free to turn on your camera so that I can see your reaction. But if you don't feel comfortable, I fully understand, right? There's also this sense of feeling superior, because an investment agreement has got this sense that you're doing something in order to grow your money. Of course. Lastly, I would think that there's a FOMO, which stands for FOMO, and that is the fear of missing out. Because everybody else is doing, I also must invest. I've seen these in property plans. I've seen this in gold transactions, where everybody's saying, I made this amount of money, and that's what you hear. You don't hear anything else. So all of these reasons excite you. And perhaps I may have missed out one very critical point over here, and I probably did it deliberately. It's because an investment gives you a return better than what you would typically earn. And let me just show you a perspective of this from a very commercial economic perspective. Okay. Now, if you see the slide in front of you, what you will see is that if I have my money in a savings account, it's less than 1%. Everyone agree, right? And if I put my money in a fixed deposit, maybe I'll get between 1 and 4 now because of inflation. If I put my money in a government bond, government tells me I can earn 2% to 4%. If I put my money in CPF, it's 4%, but I have problems because it might get jammed. I may not be able to draw my money. If I put my money in corporate bonds, whether Singapore or overseas, there's a good chance of 2% to 8% or zero. Because what happens is the corporate bond becomes a junk, unable to repay, we have a problem. So there's heavy risk as well. Now, in terms of returns on a capital market, that means if I put my money, in simple terms, if I put my money in the Singapore Stock Exchange, I will get year on year 2.75%. So now between playing the stock market, which can go up and down if you caught it at the wrong time, and putting your money in a fixed deposit, maybe you might think, I might as well put my money in a fixed deposit. If you put your money in the S&P 500, statistically, I have seen that it has 11% annualized year on year. But you're playing with a foreign market, you're leaving your money in a foreign place, you may or may not make the funds, but that is the return. Not bad. Financial loans. So some people come and tell you, hey, if I want to lend you money, if I want to borrow money from the market, I have to pay between 3 and 7%. It's usually at the higher end. Ultimately, credit cards are the highest. So if you went to go to an along, meaning a person who was a legal or illegal money lender, it would be anywhere between 18 and 24% for borrowing, which is in a way a return, because you have to look at how I would be able to use this money. So then I have two questions for you. If I look at inflation 2 years before, which was less than 2%, and I look at inflation today, which sits at 5.1% with the recent 2022 record from from MAS, the Ministry of Finance, then you will understand that all of your investments are underperforming. Why? Because inflation is 5.1%. Therefore, any of my money less than 5.1% is going to eat away. I now have to earn more. So investment agreements obviously become very exciting because you've seen people come and tell you, private entities, venture capitalists, startup, I can return a large amount of money back to you. All right. So why wouldn't you not want to take your investment risk? Right. If that is your mental set. I also have another group of people. Oh, I don't want. I cannot handle management. I cannot have an investment. I don't want to do this. I don't want to invest in the stock market. I don't want. I cannot. What do you want to do? You want to leave your money in the bank. Now, there's a problem there. The problem there is very simple. If inflation was 5.1% and my bank interest was 1%, it means that every year I lose 4% relatively, because what I could buy with that money now is costing me more, and therefore I have to spend more, and therefore I would use more and more of my reserve. It's a perspective, but just bear in mind, what is your motivation for investment? It's one of that few categories I showed you earlier, and relative to this commercial terms. I always enjoy dealing with this particular portion because I get to share with you a perspective that you may not have seen from a product perspective of what exactly you're investing. So if I'm really going into an investment agreement, which is what I want to do, then let me ask you, what is the details, right? Now, the basic structure of an investment agreement, right? Why is this important of a basic structure of an investment agreement is generally, I have a few categories and I'll start them in this way. Identity, who are the parties? Recital, what's the purpose? Definitions, that's where the tricky part is because the definitions contain a few things, quite long sometimes, but I'll show you what we're looking at. We're doing it right now. We're not waiting for anything. Then there is completion and completion dates. Completion means what? Completion means what needs to be done for the process. Completion date is when the date will happen. Then I'm looking at what the role of the investor is. Is he just sitting around? Is he a director? Is he handling the management? That's what I would do. Then comes transfer of shares, allotment of shares. Is what that means I either give you a certain number of shares and what am I doing? So I will go in better detail as we get down. This next paragraph where we talk about restrictive covenants is what stops you, the investor, from doing. So you invest, what do you do? Can you do certain? Can you run a similar business? Can you talk to that person and say, why don't you work for me? So those are restrictive covenants. Some of you may be aware, some may not. Of course, confidentiality is a clause that you will see generally. The next most two important clauses in my mind are termination clauses or exit clauses and governing law. Some agreements don't have them at all. So we'll get through quite a few. Now, I'm only able to, in this very short time, pick up a few key clauses. And I thought these are important for everyone so that they'll understand. And so let me just start off with this particular clause of the recital. You will see at the beginning of an agreement, the word recital or the word whereas in your agreements, if you find, okay? Now, I'm making the assumption that there is an agreement. If there's no agreement, right, it's really, if for you, it's fire alarm, okay? Alarm bells must be going off. Why got no agreement? No agreement means something is wrong here, because if you really want to take my money and there's nothing to put it on paper, or if the paper is one piece of paper that says, I agree to lend you money or I agree to give you money for your investment, you need to think doubly hard about this, whether you really want to carry on with this investment. Okay, so you will see in the recital, coming back to this point, that says the investor has agreed to invest, or you will see has agreed to put in the sum of subject to the terms and conditions. Now, this is the broadest subject matter. If you see anything other than this, right, something is wrong here. It's not an investment agreement, it's something else. Okay, so these clauses that I'm going to share with you, where I say the devil is in the detail, is really generic clauses that should be there, or more or less for you to look after. Okay, now I come to the next point, which is definitions. What exactly are these definitions, right? Okay, so the question in your mind is, okay, what is this investment going to give me? Okay, is it going to give me preference shares? Is it going to give me sales shares? Is it going to give me option shares? Is it going to give me investor shares? Is it going to be an convertible loan stock? Let me just explain this, right? And I'm afraid I can't see everybody's reaction. So I assume if you have any thoughts, or you think that I'm not steering the thoughts according to how you are thinking, then let me just tell you, in an investment agreement, you would see these products being offered to you. I say products because that's what I want you to sign up for. Now, a preference share is different from an ordinary share. Okay? It is different because in a preference share, there's no voting rights. It is shares to give dividends. It is shares to give you dividends, either redeemable shares, or to be able to be paid to you cumulatively, or to be paid to you once I earn the amount. So in simple English, right? If I could just say this, I have preference share A, and preference share A says that the company can buy it back from you. That will mean that the share is redeemable. Sometimes you have a non-redeemable. I cannot buy the shares from you. That's one. Cumulative dividend means in all the time that I'm in your business, you are able to collect all of the dividends to you. Okay? Sometimes it is not cumulative, which means that in that particular period of time, your shares are only worth what I'm able to earn. It's not cumulative, it's only for the year. The details of it, of course, you'll have to read and understand what it means. Okay? Now, sometimes I'm telling you that you are buying a stake into the company, which is sale shares, which I tell you, like ordinary shares in a company. Example, the company has 100,000 shares, and I tell you, I'm going to sell or issue fresh shares to you so that you become an investor in the company. Okay, you would have come across some of this as well. That's a sales share. Option shares are, you don't own the shares. I give you the option to purchase the share if something happens. For example, some of you may be given this option, right, where it says, you hit my target, I will offer you option shares so that you can buy into my company. That's a completely different animal. It's not like an investment agreement. Okay. Investor shares are similar to ordinary shares, where a person becomes a part of the company, because he's bought shares into the company. Let me tell you guys, when someone says you're an investor in the company, it's not just putting your money down, okay? Because that doesn't make you an investor. If you put your money down, you must ask yourself, am I getting shares? Am I getting option shares? Or is this a loan to the company? You guys get it? These three things are very important for you, right? Number one, is this an option share? Is this money that I'm going to get, shares that I'm going to get for my money? Or is this some other loan that I'm going to be putting so I get my money for the loan? Or is this some other creature? This, before you start any investment agreement, if you don't understand these three things, you're in the wrong place at that time, because you don't know why you're investing, right? Many people get tempted into asking for an investment agreement because they say, we will do a partnership. You put your money in there, I will return something. Yes, it is true. It's also an investment. But what kind of investment have you put in where you have just provided the money? You have no shares in the company. Then let them make sure that there's a preference share for you so that you're involved in the company. Okay. Now, a couple of other definition terms that I like to use. Completion versus completion date. Completion is basically when I transfer shares, and completion date is the date that we do so. If there's a section on completion, you should look at what completion means. Okay. Sometimes you will see things like loan notes, instruments, loan notes. Even the word loan means that this is not an investment, it is a lending. the court tends to draw a distinction between an investment by shares versus a loan. Again, in your head, you need to think, what exactly is this investment? Does it look like a loan, or am I only prepared to provide a loan? Hence the word convertible loan stock. That means I can convert my loan into stock. Okay. If anyone finds this too difficult or I've made it too jargon, please let me know so that I can customize this discussion with you, because I think it's very important. All right. Now, another thing you will see is actually warranties. Warranties is, in simple English, promises. Warranties are promises in which I will say all of these things. Now, I'm going to show you in my next slide a few clauses, and I start off with completion process. So completion, as I said, is a process where documents are prepared so that the sale and purchase of shares can be carried out smoothly. And so therefore, in completion, you will see words like this. Don't be troubled by the words. It's only written in there because sometimes they appear to be this order. All it says is that the investor shall subscribe for a certain number of shares for a certain amount of money, and then the managers will pay for certain. This is one complicated arrangement, but yours may be as simple as the investor agrees to subscribe for X number of shares for a number of shares and amount. Fine. You know that this is what you're paying for. Completion date is, of course, the date when the transfer of shares and the payment of monies are carried out. So that's the day where you pay the money and you get something. If you only pay and you get nothing, guys, please, alarm bells, okay? Alarm bells, ting tong, straight away. Ask yourself, something is wrong. I pay money, how come I don't get anything? Okay? So that's a thought process. Let me now go back to another clause on warranties. Okay? Thank you. Now, warranties, this long warranty clause, right, typically will say this. Okay, there's a portion in that it will say the warrantors, right, jointly and severally, or they will just say represent, warrant, and undertake to the investor. Now, if you see the investor warrants and undertake to the warrantors, you must think twice. Okay, basically what you're saying is that you as the investor is giving certain representations to the company about the investment. One of it, that the typical clauses you will see in warranties is they will say that there are no warranties made on the product. There are no warranties made on the business. There's no guaranteed income. That is the time you need to question deeply. When you tell me you want me to invest and you tell me there's no warranties, then you must give me something for it. So this one, of course, the warrantor meaning the person, the company is giving these warranties to say that, and somewhere in between the page you will see, if I can just highlight to you, it says that the warranties set out in a Schedule 2 are true, accurate, and not misleading, as at the date of this agreement and as at the completion date, as if it has been repeated immediately before completion. So that paragraph really just says that there are a list of warranties in a certain section, right? In this section, it contains quite a few things about the company, right? So if I am writing for the other party, that means if I acting for the company, I will say that we make no warranties about the performance, we make no warranties. So this one is an alarm bell for you as well, because if you make no warranties, you must tell me something that you can guarantee for me. It's okay entering into an agreement if you tell me you're okay with no liability because the returns are high. Again, as I'll show you later, there are some trigger points for me whether they do. Now, the next portion is basically the role of investors and directors. If you are given an investor or you are an investor in a company, you need to ask yourself whether you have an appointment in the company. So if you are and you do, you will see that it will say an appointment as one director to the board or the group of companies to be committed as a non-executive director, the investor director, or appoint an additional non-executive director. Now, this can happen if you are playing an active role in the company. How does this happen? You have contacts and you want to send the business in and you want to be part of the directorship. Now, usually I would take up the opportunity in sitting up on the board because I would want to know what's happening. But let me put my caveat over there. I wouldn't want to do so if I didn't know anything about the business. I wouldn't want to do so if I found that there was something wrong with the business. So before you pick up directorship, which is another topic altogether on the roles and responsibilities of a director and a shareholder, I would ask you to think very carefully whether you think this is suitable for you to pick up a role. If it's just an investment agreement, that's fine because your liabilities are much, much lower. Okay. The next question on restrictive covenants, you will see this on restrictive covenants very, very clearly because it will tell you that the investor cannot, for a period of some number or shareholder, do anything that would economically affect the business or compete directly with the business. This is a very important consideration for you because if you have an interest in the business and you are then found that you cannot work in the business, a restrictive covenant will mean that you cannot act in the business. You know what will happen next? You will have a law firm like mine writing a letter to you intending to sue you because you have acted against the company in which you became a shareholder. Okay? You would remember that investor agreement is enter into, right? No, but if I found out that you started a similar business or entered into a competing business, I will send you a legal letter to tell you to stop it and pay damages. So look at these clauses, right? When you find restrictive covenants. Now you notice, right? I didn't bother going into all of the other elements very quickly. I went straight into the details because ultimately each of you will be faced with a document like this. So you need to be able to look out for these headers and then ask yourself, is this an easy clause for me to understand or not? Right? And I'll give you some ways as we walk along this particular path. If we move on to the next, and I'll show you the few other, right? This exit or termination clause works in two ways. Now, if everything went well, okay, if everything went well and you had no issue with the transaction, with the investment, there are two ways you would have been able to earn your money, right? Guys, this, if you disagree with me, let me know, but I'll tell you one way. Somebody gives you a sum of money and tells you this is your dividends, no problem, from my shares. Somebody tells you that on your loan, I give you interest. Somebody gives you money to say, we've made some profits and I'm going to give you some of the profits. I don't know where to put them, but generally somebody's saying, I'm going to return profits to you. I'm okay because I get my money, right? I'm okay with that. But if I had a sale, that means the company is sold or it's listed. It's also an exit. It's an exit because somebody now is prepared to pay a certain premium on your shares in that startup company or in the investment company or in a holding company or in an entity. Okay. Largely talking about entities, this is just something that is outside. It has just occurred to me. Most of the investment agreements will come in a company, private limited. Do you know why? Anyone want to try with a guess as to why? Okay.
Please feel free to unmute your
Let me just
mic. Yes, if you want to ask question or answer, yeah, to this. Hi.
yeah.
No.
Okay, no worries. I tell you what exactly is the reason why it would be a private limited company. If it's already the tip of your tongue, let me just say it's because a private limited company is a limited liability company, which means that the company's liabilities are limited. It is capped. I cannot go on to ask from the shareholder or directors any more money than it already has invested. So most of these investment companies will give you a very simple structure of a private limited company or an exempt private limited company. The explanation, the distinction is not necessary, but you need to understand what happens in an investment agreement if it's not a private limited company or it's a private limited company. Most of it will obviously be a private limited company. Okay. Now, that's why a private limited company can then be taken over to become a listed company or bought over by another company. And that's where shares would go up. So, hey, that investment could work. So far, I'm telling you the details in relation to all of the key things you need to look out for. An exit clause, just one before. An exit clause, if you see my highlight below, you will notice a few things that it tells you. It says that parties intend to work towards an exit, which is correct. Parties will cooperate with each other so that they're given a certain purpose, which is correct. And this 14.1, which is the sample clause, it says that the investor will not be required to give any kind of warranties or indemnity to a person. Is a very important protection clause for you, because if you have to give warranties or indemnities, if you see the word indemnity in your investment agreement asking you to indemnify anybody, alarm bells, okay, alarm bells. This is my signal for alarm bells. Something is wrong in the agreement. It shouldn't be that I should be giving you indemnities. For everyone's benefit, does everyone understand what an indemnity is? An indemnity says, for example, I promise to pay you, and if you suffer loss, I indemnify your losses, even if it's related to a certain topic. In simple English, alarm bells if you are the investor and you have to indemnify anyone. Okay? So I hope that becomes a little clear for everyone, right? If I could move on to the next, and I'll explain this particular section. This perhaps to me is the most important governing law. Okay. Now, in short, governing law means that this particular agreement that we have, where does it have to be activated? Where does the law of land allow this agreement to have its effect? So most times governing law and the jurisdiction, the governing law will be Singapore and the jurisdiction will be Singapore, and it could be an exclusive or non-exclusive jurisdiction. The difference between the two is exclusive means only the courts can look at it. Non-exclusive means I could have other entities to solve the problem. The word exclusive or non-exclusive. Now, let me just tell you this issue with the jurisdiction clause. You have the best agreement. You have no warranties. You have no indemnities. You have an agreement that says that you will make 20% per annum or more. Your investment is only $100,000 or maybe even more. And it tells you all of these things. There is only one issue. This agreement, for example, is governed by Hong Kong law. Or this agreement is governed by Cayman Islands. Or this agreement is governed by Myanmar. Guys, let me tell you, alarm bells, alarm bells, alarm bells. Why? Because you can have all of those jurisdictions where your law, where the governing law is, but what's the problem here? The problem here is if I want to enforce that particular agreement because of a breach of that agreement, meaning something has not complied with what you have promised, have been promised, you can only take that particular case in a separate jurisdiction. So if I did it in Myanmar, I'll have to go to Myanmar's courts to get my agreement sorted out. If I made the agreement in Hong Kong, I'll have to go to Hong Kong because the Singapore courts will say, we do not have jurisdiction in Hong Kong law. Therefore, you are in the wrong forum. The forum is a different country. Okay? What's the impact of that, guys? Simple. It means that in order for you to pursue that particular case, you'll have to spend money engaging separate lawyers outside to be able to recover your funds. For me, it's a lost cause. Unless you have somebody in that particular country who can press for you your investments. Okay? Now, sometimes you will see arbitration clauses. An arbitration clause is not a court, but it acts like a court to solve people's problems. The only difference, or one of the differences I can say, is that in an arbitration clause, in an arbitration, the matter is not disclosed in public. In a court, if I sued you, I could go and find out about it. But in an arbitration, it's all hush-hush. It usually happens between the bigger entities because they don't want to go and dry their linen or their dirty linen in public by saying that there was a dispute between Apple. But sometimes you will see and hear about it, but you don't hear the full details because it's always kept hush-hush. Okay? Now, at this marker, at 5:45, I have actually shared with you, if you had an investment agreement right in front of you, of what you would need to look out for immediately, right? The next portion of which I am going to share with you is what are the kinds of agreements you would have come across. And feel free to add to my list if you feel, because it's non-exhaustive. Okay. Let me start by telling you the kind of agreements I've seen in my list of things. One is someone says, you put in the money, you will get a share of the profits. You could buy ostrich eggs, you could grow chickens, you could invest in Australian emus, you could buy vegetable farms. And I'm sure most of you have come across, right, some of these things where the guy tells you, you just invest in a machine to produce something, all done for, everything done for, you just invest. Your return very good, 10, 20% easily per annum. Strangely, some of these things have not worked. In fact, most of them crash and burn, because when it comes to these things, the money is gone into a separate account overseas. So not only is the governing law not Singapore, it's also that your money has gone to another place. Where? Don't know. Maybe the Cayman Islands. And you would imagine that the Cayman Islands, right, is all full of, it's actually all sand, not a lot of infrastructures. A lot of it is just virtual. It's quite strange how people decide to put their money away or decide how they want to siphon or put away their money. The couple of other things that you will see, someone tells you to invest in land. And let me, at this point of time, they tell you can reap loads of money. If you sell the land and develop it, you will get a good value. In fact, the value is as good as Singapore. They'll tell you, usually it happens in Malaysia properties. They ask you to buy. Philippines, England, Wales, and recently I've seen Scotland. Now the Scottish was very simple. They had a seminar over here. They told you Scotland is a great place to invest. You don't have to worry about anything. You just put your money over there and you come to invest. I think the investment was purely legit. There was no issue with the investment. The problem was that when you wanted to buy a particular place, you couldn't get it. Now, it was a seminar, so you had to spend some money. So people spent up to $1,000, $1,800 for two people to come by. And then they gave out a discount. And after the seminar, what they would do is they would promote you to go and buy and invest with them to buy a land, which they will set up for you. And what was the package? Some $50,000 or $60,000 where they will show you how to buy your land in Scotland. Do you understand? Basically, it's a package, a plan where I tell you, you invest $50,000, 60,000 with me. I'll show you, I'll give you a person, I'll show you the sightings. You just put your money, you'll get your money back and you will make more. So it's like a quasi-learning environment as well as you how to make your money. You understand this model? If you have not come across this something, happy to chat with me and pick my mind on this topic. And a very common one, I'm not sure whether some of you were around, is something called profitable plots. Eventually, the directors were also charged. They basically wanted to sell land in England. They had a piece of land in various pieces. What they did was they said that there was a piece of land subdivided into certain square meters, and you could purchase this. And when the land was developed after planning authorities, you could earn a lot of money. Have you all come across that as well? If you have, yeah, I mean, you can give me a thumbs up, tell me something, whatever it is, and I understand that we are on the same page and you're understanding where all these investments are coming up. We then have a few other arrangements I've seen. Loan arrangements where repayment of scheme is there. Usually it tells me, you just lend me a certain amount of money, I will return this money with an interest. And as I showed you earlier, interest, if I gave you 10% per month, I think you'll be very happy, right? Because 10% per month means you're getting 120%, almost 120%. When that happens, you better scratch your head and ask yourself, really? How is he going to earn his 10%? What's he going to do to be able to earn his 10%? Most of you will say, I don't really care. Well, that's the time you realize you're not going to get your money back. It's gone. Because he's going to say, I've committed the money. Then when you ask for repayment, the guy tells you, oh, actually, I need a bit more time. Can you give me 3 more months? 3 more months later, he tells you, hey, I'm very sorry, I can't get the money back. I need 6 more months. 9 months later, 1 year later, you're getting very angry. You go and ask him, he told you, I declared bankrupt. I'm sorry, I don't have any money left. Anyone have experienced that? A couple of our clients have come through, more than a couple, okay? They've had investment agreements telling us, please send letter of demand. We need to sue. End of the day, company is zero. Okay? Common investment agreements offering ordinary shares with promise of dividends. That's all about the business. They tell you, come join me in the business, help me to be. You just stay in the investors, be on the sideline. Usually happens for a cash business like a like a restaurant business, F&B, certain quick goods. That's when I ask you, come in. I really need the support to buy the goods, and we will do. Sometimes they crash and burn because no proper business plan. But hey, that's part of the investment. I offer ordinary preference shares with promise of non-cumulative. I went through just now what preference shares were. I think you understand what preference shares are. Preference shares are no right to vote in a company, but able to take the shares. It's not so easy to issue. There's a whole process behind for a company. So if someone tells you, I can give you a certificate that says preference shares, please look at the ACRA document to see that you are registered as a preference shareholder. So whatever shares that are issued to you, you will see your name over there or your nominee name. Okay. A few of the other things that I've seen is earn your money by investing in assets that generate income. I give you an example, orange juice machine. Buy the machine and you will earn income from there. So you as many machines as you buy. Now, what happens is that at some point of time, the machines are not maintained. So there's one recent job in which I was advising. The person bought a coffee machine. He says, look, all you need to do is we have an espresso coffee machine in many places. You just buy the machine and we will maintain a certain fee. The rest we will get a certain percentage. Guess what happened to that investment? Crash and burn. You know why? Crash and burn because they were taking a lot of investments, but they did not secure the machines at the right places, and they were not given leave to go and put the machines over there. So they literally cash and burn. Idea, very good. You basically buy coffee and earn your money. But what happened then? I didn't get anything. Couldn't collect my money back. What was the next thing that happened? They closed down. Can I get my money back when they close down? Chances are zero chance. Okay, or limited, to be fair. Right? I don't need to say this. You've probably seen cryptocurrency documents where they tell you you can mine coins in a cryptocurrency to buy Bitcoins because it's limited stock and all of that story that is being told to you. Please, in my view, enter with caution because as you can see, the cryptocurrency with FTX recently, with the crash of FTX, and FTX is basically supposed to be a platform. What happened was, in the gist of the matter, the short story is a few people wanted to withdraw from FTX and they couldn't. Why? No money inside there. It's being used somewhere else. And that's the problem. There's now an interim person, interim liquidator who's there, a judicial manager, to see exactly what has happened. His one comment was he couldn't believe how money was being moved from one place to another so easily without any controls. And we're not talking about $1,000 or $2,000. We're talking about billions of dollars being moving. Billions of dollars, okay? Right? Another one is multi-level marketing. Multi-level marketing, you will see it in this particular format. It can also turn into a Ponzi scheme. This is what happens. I promote a certain product to you. I tell you that if your downline promotes the product, you can earn a certain income just by your promotion. So you keep on promoting your product, okay? You just keep on selling, keep on buying. Buy for yourself. You may need some face cream. You may need some hair products. You may need certain Tupperwares. Now, previously, that was not how the business was, but multi-level became quite popular. In Singapore, there are some restrictions on multi-level marketing. You cannot be involved in a multi-level marketing transaction because there's this possibility of it turning into a Ponzi scheme. What's a Ponzi scam? A Ponzi scam happens this way. I give you a certain amount of money and I promise to pay you a certain dividend. Then I go and find another person. I use that money and I pay you. Then I tell you to introduce two other people. Actually, there's no business. It's just moving of monies. Moving of monies can then become very complicated. Do you all understand the implications of multi-level marketing and Ponzi? If you have any questions on that, please feel free, right, to always ask me. Also very common, we'd actually advise legally on a platform, a trading platform. Someone says that, look, you invest in our trading platform, you put your money over here, and you can see the stocks. In fact, you don't even have to trade. We have robo and advisors. Now, all of this has to be governed by the Monetary Authority of Singapore, right? it has to be governed. MES has to govern. The Ministry of Finance is involved. The Monetary Authority has got licenses that they issue, or they give you exempt licenses. Whether you can trade in Singapore, it's got a regulated framework. So it's not like someone tell you can just go and invest in a platform. You need to check whether the regulated platform, or sorry, whether the platform is regulated in one way or the other. You understand? That's very important. Another way of money happening is someone tells you that you invest your money, you don't put the money with me, you put the money in a trading company and I will help you invest. Even that is regulated unless there are certain exceptions where you have got full control of the investment. Okay. Example, right? Example of that is they tell you to put the money in a foreign platform. This is the trick here. Maybe the word trick is wrong, but this is the issue that you need to be worried about. You can put your money in a foreign offshore trading platform. Let me ask you what the governing law of that platform will be. Your answer should be not Singapore. So are you comfortable with putting your money not Singapore in the event something happens? Some of them are reputable, no issue. Some UK, US platforms are very popular. No issue. You would have no issue putting your money. But if it was less popular to you, would you have the courage to put your money over there? That's the question you must ask yourself. Okay, so that's what I want to share with regard to this. Of course, the other way of an investment is a retail investor. You invest in any of the local Singapore companies. That's going to be obviously sensible for you because it's got all the regulation in place if you're an investor. Now, let me move on to how to mitigate your risk and how to mitigate your losses. I found 4, and there are some more at the bottom when I start talking to you about this. First risk mitigate is to verify the structure and the entity of the company. So I think a good practice here would be to go and get an ACRA or get them to produce something about the company, or get your lawyers or get somebody to help you with getting the structure of the company. Then you can see who owns the company and why. It's good due diligence to do. Identify also the directors of the company. Sometimes directors are well, they are directors who actually have got a bad reputation and they've been reported in the newspaper and they basically have a company doing this. So you want to see what kind of person is running your company. Some directors have got no status, no worries. But sometimes there's a director who's appeared, who's done certain things. You want to check to say, hey, who's going to be handling our funds at the end of the day? Why? Because the directors are the last people who are going to be checking your work. Okay? They are the ones who are most accountable to you as an investor. So I spoke about this. If you're investing, you need to know where you're putting your money into. In which entity? Is it a Singapore entity? Is it an overseas entity? Is it a subsidiary entity? This is very important. Sometimes they tell you that they are going to invest your money, but they don't tell you where they're going to put your money. When you want to recover your money, they'll tell you they put your money in another place. Then you have got no reach to your money. Okay, this is very important, okay? In terms of finding where your nature of your money is, where the nature of your funds are, where it's going to be put. The next element is the nature of your business. What are you investing into? Are you investing into gold bars? Are you investing into plots of land very far away? Are you investing into some scheme where they tell you they're going to return? Are you investing into some property deal? What are you investing into and for what purpose? Is it a technological advancement? Now, startup companies are easier to sell this in this story to you because they'll tell you, look, I've started this particular app, and this app is going to bring 100 million people together, like a platform, like maybe Amazon. In fact, recently I saw the valuation of Amazon. In 2000, when every .com was crashing, Amazon had a value of only $43. Amazon, $43. The market value was 69. But at that time, nobody wanted to invest in Amazon simply because they had $2 billion cash that they had borrowed in order to sustain themselves. So that was an investment. They were asked, look, they're looking for investors. Now, would you invest in a company which had I got the numbers wrong. $69 market share, but $43 was the value of the company. But when you looked at their growth, they had tremendous growth. So that was the investment risk that they took. Fine, no issue. Ultimately, you know where Amazon is sitting at the moment, although they've suffered trillion-dollar losses. But hey, still, look at the story in 2000 and now where we are, 22 years later. Right? Now, mitigating your losses. There are many ways to mitigate your losses, but I found that two clauses to be quite important in the agreement perspective and on platform trading. There are more, but I'll just share these two with you. I've got a little more detail later on losses and how to manage your losses, right? As we go down the list. A limitation of liability clause is a clause that talks about saying that if there are any other losses related to the transaction, it doesn't involve you. And there's a quantum figure that says that in the event that you're found to be liable, your liability is only to your investment sum or half the amount or 10% of the investment sum or whatever it is. You understand? This clause is necessary if you want to limit your loss. So that's how you mitigate your loss. So that in the event there are losses, there shouldn't be a back claw. One way that there can be a back claw, right? The guy tells you, can you be a guarantor for the company? Guys, if you see the word guarantor to the company, alarm bells, okay? Alarm bells, because the guarantee is unlimited. Your investment is limited. You do not want to go and have yourself in there. Alarm bells, if you are asked to become a guarantee for the business for one reason or the other. Okay? All right. So now, just before that, Marilyn, I also want to explain the stop loss. Now, in trading platforms, right, I don't know how many of you are trading, whether you are doing your stock market or not. There is this stop loss and a limit loss mechanism to the trading platform. Check to see that when you're dealing with trading platforms, you have stop losses, limit losses. If you don't understand what they are, I'm not an investment person. I am a finance person to some extent. But please do go and check exactly how you can limit your loss, because in a trading platform, I will tell you all the great things. I will not tell you the items in which allow you to lose all your money. One of the best ways to do so is if you're trading in CFDs, which is a transaction in which you can have all the losses coming down and all of the losses and all of the gains going up by virtue of the fact that you're margin trading. If you didn't understand what I'm saying, I can take this offline. Just feel free to just talk to me, guys, because at the end of the day, I'm here to try and save you some funds. Right? That's what I'm keen to do. Now, can we go down to the next? Right. Okay. So when do I say no? When do I say walk away? Generally, most investors, they have a sense of ground. They have a sense of being grounded as to when they feel that they feel uncomfortable. Obviously, it's an emotional call, but let me just give you some context to this. The agreement makes only promises to you. That means there's no agreement. I say that I'm going to do this for you. I'll give you 10%. There's nothing written anywhere. There's no term sheet. There's no condition or something known as a memorandum of understanding. Usually, when we do investment agreements, there's a term sheet. It tells you all specifically in a summary what are all of the things that you're going to be dealing with. It's always good to have a term sheet. If you're a seasoned investor, please ensure that you do, because that's what I would advise my clients when we talk about a deal. We'll say, look, give me the term sheet. What are you telling me I'm going to earn? What am I going to be able to do? It's just like an introduction paper in a summary in one page or sometimes two. Okay. Now, if the company is pressuring you to close the deal and does not want to take you through the investment agreement, they tell you you can learn this yourself. There is something that they're hiding, okay? Because the pressure tactic is unnecessary. Your money will come in. There's no urgency for the particular matter if you want to invest. Immediately ask yourself whether the deal is legit. Move a few steps back. Go through my process of asking myself, what am I missing in the agreement that this guy wants to pressure me, okay? If you have an agreement that is like too long, 50, 60 pages of agreement. A lot of it is about the material, about the presentation. It tells you that it's too many documents, too many items. Yet when you read it, you don't understand it because you can't find the key terms. The terms and conditions are missing. I'll tell you, you buy this vacuum cleaner, it's really, really good. I give you everything about the vacuum, but there are no terms and conditions. It just tells you what I'm going to propose as return. It can be in the region of, it's very, very iffy. Guys, here again, right? I think to have this relationship with a particular person who cannot tell you exactly where the business is going is seriously something you need to think about. Okay. The next alarm bell situation for me is always about the super high returns. If someone can return 30% to me per month, which means I earn 360% per annum, I showed you the table at the beginning. What was the most that the market has been doing for sale and purchase agreement? Right? 11% for the S&P 500 in this case, which is an American stock listed company. What am I looking at there? 11%. 11% is what I'm looking at. And you are telling me you can offer me 5 to 30%. Now, some of you will jump out of your chair and tell me, no, Mr. Anil, let me tell you, you're wrong. I have seen businesses provide me 20, 30%. Yes. But if you look at the general market of where returns are, no company goes and tells you I made 360% profit. Companies come and tell you, they say we did fairly well. We did 8%, 10%, 12%, 15%, 20%, 25% per annum. What is this transaction? Per month. Something is wrong. Something is wrong. It means you have to investigate. If not, say no. Let me go down. Okay. When do you need to seek help? Most of you, I imagine, are savvy. Most of you understand about investment agreements. Most of you understand what you need to do. But guys, let me give you some key takers in which I have experienced when we talk to clients. One of the few things I've seen is you have already agreed to an investment agreement because you agree to all of the structure. You've done the investment agreement. You've done the nature of the business. You've done all of those. You verified that all these guys are nice guys. You've shaken hands with them. You've had dinners with them, whatever it is. But you don't understand the investment agreements because there are too many jargons in there. Seek help. And on that note, because there are too many jargons in there, what are jargons? Big, confusing words that are not actually simplified. Some of the clauses I deliberately showed to you actually were quite difficult clauses because if you didn't understand the impact of it, such long paragraphs, anything more than like 7 or 8, 9, 10 words, right, in a sentence, is already a lot to think and absorb. And can you imagine if you're an investor, what are you thinking? You're only thinking of the commercial numbers. Documents, you need to think, okay? Another place where I found really strange is the presentation story is completely different from the agreement. Presentation story tells you, buy this coffee machine, buy this juice machine, and you will earn X number of dollars. And this X number of dollars projected over a number of years will earn you your return on capital on a certain period of time. Very easy. Then I tell you, oh, you also get this money back guarantee if you don't believe that we cannot sign a contract. All of that is written down. The product is brilliant. The investment is brilliant. The percentage is brilliant. Guess what's not brilliant? There's an agreement that comes to you and tells you something completely different. Your money will be used by another company for the purposes of investing so that the money can be returned to you. This is not the presentation story completely. Presentation was this, agreement is this, right? I'm not saying don't enter the presentation agreement. I'm just saying that maybe you need to amend the agreement so that you know for a fact that it is consistent with your presentation. And if it is not, go back to number one, say no, walk away. There are going to be many, many deals, right, guys? I've seen so many clients tell me, if only I'd seen the lawyer, right, to talk about this because I thought I understood the deal, but we didn't. Oh, I should have spoken to a friend. I should have spoken to my people, my friends, they would have at least spoken to me and told me what to look out for. Of course, The lawyer always helps you to do certain circumstance. Your friends tell you a certain perspective, but at least they help you, show you where the alarm bells are, right? So presentation story different from my agreement. Now, you are asked to pay for the investment now, and the agreement will be signed later. I think that's not fair. Usually this pressure tactic, they come to you, they tell you need to do so, need to sign, need to sign, need to sign, need to sign, need to sign. But this is the reverse. Need to pay, need to pay, need to pay, need to pay. But we will sign the agreement later. Okay. Again, please. I think if you're unsure, at least you need to mitigate your position. Tell them that no, we will only pay after the agreement is signed. If not, we're not signing agreement. Okay. Agreement first and what the agreement contains. Okay, anything that tells you urgently sign, if not, the deal will not be there, is a threat pressure tactic. You need to be aware of this. Sometimes there's some delay, but if I tell you put in the money tomorrow, go tomorrow, it may not be there. It's a pressure tactic you need to be not afraid of. Now, one more option where I've seen is someone tells you that you have to pay a deposit if you want to secure the deal. Fairly, the deal is okay. But after you have paid the deposit, they tell you that if you don't take the next steps, your deposit will be forfeited. Now, in law, there is really very limited chances for me to go and forfeit a deposit. If you have not performed the contract or done anything, for you to forfeit the deposit is unreasonable. Okay? If I tell you that you paid the deposit now, this is an exemption to property deals, because in property deals, you are required to put up a certain amount, which is the good faith deposit, and you can lose the deposit if you do not fulfill the next portion of it. The next portion of that is actually the 4% that we're talking about. Do you understand? So in this situation, if you are entering into an investment agreement and you put up a good faith deposit, usually I ask the deposit to be returned, so therefore it should be refundable. If it is non-refundable, it must be a very, very good reason, okay? It's not just because I want to be able to be party to it. So it's very important you understand exactly where the situation is, okay? Now, I will spend a few more minutes coming back to Elizabeth Holmes, okay, guys? She moved from becoming a billionaire with a very good idea to going to jail. One reason in my mind was the reason for it. She couldn't meet her expectations, and she had backers who had put money in her. Ultimately, she couldn't pull the plug early enough to say, actually, there are technological flaws in my product, and my product is not going to work. I'm afraid we have lost the money. Because when you do research, what happens? You actually need to burn money. You need to get the people to do the product. You need to spend a lot of money you need to spend a lot of money on manpower and the necessary resources to develop a product. And that's how you actually become successful in your product. Before it's launched, it is sold, and it's able to earn a revenue. There was one more problem with Elizabeth Holmes. She was also involved in wire fraud transfers, which means that she moved money. I think this is a way to just hook her, because if not, there wouldn't be any a way to blame her. It's just a bad deal that went wrong. She was, of course, overselling, but this is the problem. Now, to move from a billionaire to 11 years in prison, quite a few people are involved in this, FTX as well. You would probably be aware. Quite a few companies that you've read in the papers. I have one company that I know very well that has happened, and that's FTX. So that's a HyFlux that has happened. Okay, so that's where I would look to consider. A few things I want to draw your attention to. There were 3 men charged for alleged money laundering activities linked to a 4.5 million investment scheme. If you're asked to open bank accounts, please be careful. Look at what you're opening. Be careful at using your bank account for that purpose. It's critical. If we can move on to the next, and I'll show you another example. There were 2 ex-directors jailed for pocketing 1.2 million in a gold investment Ponzi scheme. We spoke about Ponzi scheme. How did this happen? They sold gold to more than 2,000 customers. They promised guaranteed returns as high as 24% per annum, which was already there. And they said that they would buy back your gold. This eventually led in the Ponzi scheme. There was no goal to transact. There may have been some initial transaction, but it failed ultimately. Okay. Now, let me take you to the next transaction. This is a housewife who invested $300,000 after falling for some slides of firm's rosy prospect. What was this? She was basically, the directors were held for misrepresentation. She paid some $298,000. And, the court said that ultimately they were suckered into buying something that was only worth $1,500. It was fitness-related company. So it was, I think, a Fitbit, like a watch or something where you needed to invest because I told you and I made this presentation. There are many of these such presentations. You have to be very careful. So when you go in with that, take the information that you already have that I've shared with you. Okay. Now, there are some steps that I have set out for here. I will spend just 5 minutes to come to the end of what you need to look out for, key broad points for you to be able to say, okay, this is what we're going to do so that you have all that you need, right? So be the smart investor to whatever extent you can and how to cash out with the investment. And I'll take you next through this process of what happens if you take me. Yeah. So there are 5 essential things you need to look out for. What is your needs and your goals? If it doesn't align, then there's a problem with it. What are you getting for your money? So in summary, what I'm trying to say is we look at all of the terms and conditions. Ask yourself, what are you getting for your money? Item number 3 must be that you're monitoring your money. You need to know exactly who is in contact with you. Don't just invest and leave it. Make sure there's a contact person. Make sure there's a person who is able to tell you that your investment is giving you statements and all of that necessary elements to ensure that when you do have it, you have it in front of you. An exit route is also important. You need to know exactly how you're exiting. Is it by way of a sale and purchase agreement? Is it because there's someone buying back the shares from you? Is it because somebody is going to buy the company from you? Or is it just a pure investment like a loan where you get your interest and you know that your loan is an investment amount and you may get your money back or may not? Okay. So clearly a telltale sign is having a well-crafted agreement. But even I got involved in a well-crafted agreement because I asked the agreement to be changed and everything else. Unfortunately, the scam here was there was no such product. I made the mistake of not inspecting. I imagine some of you would also go and do this, so you need to be careful as well. So the next 5 slides for me is actually just what I've already spoken about. In summary, when I talk about the needs and goals, look at the capacity, look at the risk limits, look at the investment amounts, look at the risk tolerance and the timelines so that these are your goals and needs. Move next slide. You ask yourselves, what are you getting your money for? Negotiate upfront so that it's clear. Try and have a term sheet. That's very important. What are you actually buying? Item number 3. Monitoring is an important perspective. Speak to the investors. I've already spoken about this. Item number 4, the exit. What exactly are you buying? Is it a shareholder buyout? Is it a strategic acquisition? Is it an initial public offer, meaning that somebody is going to list the company and therefore you can get your shares out? Or is it just a pure business investment? And that's a little more risky, right? In the event of a default, what happens? Right? Somebody must be able to buy your shares out for you, almost like a guarantee, but most people will not guarantee. Give you an opportunity to remedy the breaches. That means they'll tell you they'll pay. After that period of time, you need to ask yourself whether you got legal recourse. And please ensure that it is Singapore law. If it is not Singapore law, it is outside. Your money is in a different country. Sometimes getting that money is completely out of the way. Sometimes you can include liquidated damages, but in an investment agreement, it's quite difficult. What is a liquidated damages? It means that if you don't perform, not you, the company doesn't perform, they have to pay you damages. Unlikely, I haven't seen many, but that's where the difficulty is. Okay. Now, as I promised you, I will share with you this investor list. An investor list is actually available for you on MAS, where it tells you what are the companies MAS considers as the danger list. If you're an investor and you are investing with any of these companies, it's uploaded every month, I think sometimes from time to time. you will know immediately that you have to have your eyes open with some of these companies. They